Today's episode is sponsored by Honey, the easy way to save when shopping on your iPhone or computer. How do you feel about online shopping? Do you do it often? And how many times do you scour the internet looking for a promo code that works when it's time to check out? Well, thanks to Honey, manually searching for coupon codes is a thing of the past. Honey is the free shopping tool that finds promo codes and applies the best one it finds to your cart. Imagine you're shopping on one of your favorite sites. When you check out, the Honey button appears, and all you have to do is click Apply Coupons and wait a few seconds as Honey searches for coupons it can find for that site. If Honey finds a working coupon, you'll watch the prices drop. And Honey doesn't just work on desktop, it works on your iPhone too. Just activate it on Safari, on your phone, and save on the go. If you don't already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out. And by getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting this show. Get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/podcast. That's joinhoney.com/podcast.
Coming up.
There was a hair that was recovered at the time of her murder inside one of her hands. That hair was processed and a full profile was obtained.
9 trees were constructed with almost 1,300 individuals connected to the suspect.
For Vault Studios, I'm Will Johnson. You're listening to The Daily Crime. 34 years later, the murder of a California woman is finally solved.
There were no arrests and not even a suspect named previously in the fatal stabbing of single mom Diane Dahn inside her Santee apartment back in 1988. Detectives say forensic genetic evidence broke this case open.
I myself was going to go to my grave not knowing. I'm so grateful to the detectives and everything that has been done.
It was a night like any other. You ate some dinner with the family, chatted for a bit about school and work. Everything seemed normal. Then suddenly, you were gone. But they didn't need to worry. You just snuck off for a second to play Best Fiends. Best Fiends is the mobile puzzle adventure game you want to play for hours on end, even when you only have a few moments to spare. From the vibrant artwork and adventure-packed storyline to the cute collectible characters and supercharged power-ups, Best Fiends is designed to be the most obsession-worthy game ever. There are literally thousands of levels, plus tons of in-game events added every month for even more ways to win. And the best part is, you can play anytime, anywhere. No Wi-Fi, no problem. Of course, people may start to wonder about your mysterious disappearances until they see how much fun you're having. Download your new favorite getaway, Best Fiends, for free today on the App Store or Google Play. You'll even get $5 worth of in-game rewards when you reach level 5. That's friends without the R. Best Fiends.
I'm joined by Heather Hope at CBS 8 KFMB in San Diego. Heather, thanks for being here with us to talk about this case. We appreciate it.
Hi, yes. Great to be here.
Before we get into what we know about what happened back in 1988, tell us a little bit about Diane Dahn and what we know about her.
Diane Dahn, from all the pictures that we've seen of her, she's always with her violin, so that was cool to see. And then after talking with her sister, just learning more that she was a student in Austria as a foreign exchange student, that her family originally from the New Jersey area. They later moved out to California, and her parents were also in the East San Diego County area in El Cajon, and that the sisters kind of lost touch, but they both had children at the same time, about 1986. But cool to see more about her musical background, and that she was a radio repair tech and one of the first for the San Diego company that she worked for. So that was great as well. She seemed to be like a Jane of many trades.
And she was 29 years old back in 1988, living in Santee, California. Tell us what we know about what happened on May 2nd of 1988.
On that day, we know that Diane was supposed to go to work, and it's unclear what led up to the incident, but her son is at home with her, just her 2-year-old toddler. And then what we know from the next day is that her coworker, who normally, is given a ride to work by Diane, doesn't show up. She goes to the home or sends her husband there, and then he, finds Diane, her nude body, sprawled on the floor, bludgeoned with visible stab wounds. And from there is where this cold case begins, as San Diego County Sheriff's deputies try to piece together what is really going on. And then her son is left wandering the apartment complex, not knowing what's going on at that time. And so from then they did have some DNA evidence on her body. They're trying to piece together, oh, is this going to be a part of a serial killer that's going around town? There was one that was infamous from there and in Birmingham, Alabama at the time. They ruled him out because no one's DNA tested with any criminals they had in their file. No one had any motive. So the case really just remained cold for years. And it wasn't until each decade that investigators would return back to the scene and try to see what happened that day in 1988 and why.
Again, that's 1988. They kept some evidence underneath her fingernails, right? And even a piece of hair. And this comes into play many years later.
Yeah, so I guess in 2000, they tried to test out some DNA as we continued to advance and more technological advancement. 2000, they weren't able to get any hits within their database based on DNA or anyone's in the system. But it wasn't until the breakthrough in 2020 where we see more cases being solved by this genetic type of genealogy system that people are using. They help solve the Golden State Killer in California, longtime serial killer. And then in 2020 pandemic, when no one probably thought that this cold case would be solved, they were able to get a hit based on a hair that was found in Diane Dahn's hand. And they said they exhausted nearly all the other evidence at the time. And thankfully, they had a piece of the hair. They've already used the majority of it. They were able to process. And through that processing, they were able to construct a DNA profile. But it wasn't until they had to put together 9 family trees via an online database where people like 23andMe and Ancestry.com were able to opt in for law enforcement to use their names and search their trees. And through these 9 family trees, they're able to find different relatives. They have to go through the case of calling and tracking down these relatives of what is believed to be murder of Diane Dahn, and getting their consent, getting blood samples, all those tests to build the family tree further to create this criminal profile to say, hey, this guy, Warren Robertson, is the one who did it.
So I want to talk more about this suspect and who they've identified, Warren Robertson. And you mentioned 9 family trees. And, when we get into discussions about genetic genealogy, and in this case, they call it investigative genetic genealogy, I've seen from your reporting, we can talk about it, but it's really difficult to even wrap your head around how much work that can take when you're talking about, 1,300 people that they looked at in these 9 family trees. Around 1,300 is my understanding. So it's a massive undertaking.
Yes, and it was interesting to find out that through this mass connection, they were able to trace an ancestor as far back as 1817. And so to find like a mutual ancestor through all this and to be able to track down the suspect, Warren Robertson, from a DNA test and being able to piece all that together among all the 1,300 individuals, among all the family trees, to trace these common ancestors back to this Warren Robertson.
This episode is sponsored by CuriosityStream, the streaming service with the best collection of documentary films and TV shows. New this week, animals with bulletproof skin, impenetrable scales, and poison-tipped spines? They may look strange, but they've got a serious defensive edge. Check out Mother Nature's quirky side on Nature's Oddballs, now on CuriosityStream. Get an annual plan for just $20. That's $1.67 a month. Visit CuriosityStream.com to sign up today.
So Diane Dahn, murdered in 1988, this just horrific scene, her 2-year-old son there at the time. Many years later, decades later, they finally identify Warren Robertson through investigative genetic genealogy. Is he still alive? Tell us more about him.
Warren Robertson was interesting because this is someone that, no one suspected. The family said they knew, Diane Dahn's family said they had, no knowledge of him. And then learning from more about him, we're like, oh, this is this tow truck driver who was born in Arkansas and then moved to San Diego later in his life. He was about the same age as Diane Dahn. She's 29. He's 28 at the time in 1988, living in the same apartment complex as Diane Dahn with his wife. So it's unclear how the two ever connected because, police say there was no sign of a visible break-in, no home invasion type style, nothing mysterious with the lock. So we don't know if he just appeared to her that night saying, I'm a neighbor, or whatever the case was. They said one other common thing beyond them being neighbors was that they both went to the El Cajon Speedway, which was a big attraction at the time to see the race cars, and that they both either had ticket stubs or shown previous history there. So they may have known each other from this time. It's really unclear how their connection, whatever relationship, maybe beyond neighbors, could have been at that time. But right after what police say the murder took place by Warren Robertson, he skips town. He leaves San Diego County altogether after spending a little bit of town more, maybe like 20 miles away from the murder site, and just moves to Indiana. No one really hears from him at the time, not even his children. And it wasn't until 1999 where it said that Robertson died in a house fire. And so that's when trying to track down, is he really the suspect? They had to go through a DNA test and tracking down, different of his children's mothers and getting that contact to then identify, hey, we think this guy did it.
So in the end, there's some closure. I know that you spoke to, or the station spoke to, the son who was just 2 at the time, and he was able to comment on this. But in this case, you've also got someone who has died a long time ago.
Yes, and so for the son, he's now in the Seattle area, and we were able to talk with his aunt at the time. So Diane Dahn's sister, so she was physically there with us with the sheriffs last week, and we were able to see a video that sheriffs, when they talked to the son, Mark Beyer, and, look at him now, 34 years later, after he was adopted by one of Diane Dahn's close friends, and, just grew up with those boys and those brothers, not knowing anything about his mother. And that's what Diane Dahn's sister was pretty remiss about. She wished that, the son could have known more about this great violinist and great person that the mom was. But for him, it still was a sense of closure, not knowing exactly who his mom was or having any early memories. But still, people always say, oh, you look just like your mom, or you're a free spirit just like your mom. But there are still so many questions out there. So he said this case brought closure to him, even for someone he really didn't even know. He was so glad that investigators took the time more than 3 decades later to still keep staying on this case and find an end result.
I'm in an interesting position because I was so young. I don't have many memories. The answers that my family received, it's closure. And closure is everything, even after so much time had passed.
Heather Hope, thanks for being here with us. We appreciate your help.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Thanks for listening to The Daily Crime. Be sure to check out our weekly show, True Crime Chronicles, available wherever you listen to podcasts. For Vault Studios, I'm Will Johnson.